another bit of news that just came out in the last week is the SEC's decision to stay with 8 conference games for 2024. That's when obviously Oklahoma and Texas joined the league in 2024. They're going to stay with that and just kind of see what happens. I think after the fact, maybe with TV deals or see what the product looks like. But as I read that, I kind of read more into the SEC and kind of thought about it. The question I have for today is: have we overvalued the SEC itself? They decided to stay with 8 conference games, which allows them to have 2 to 4 easy ball games, so they could play FCS opponents, usually 2 to 3 FCS opponents a year, and then maybe one out of conference game that maybe against a rival or it could be challenging, something like that. And I think you brought it up before the podcast, Jordan. I think there's 2 out of the SEC that plays 10 Power 5 opponents or more. I believe is the stat there, and so they're not playing as many Power 5 opponents as majority of the rest of the big leagues like ACC, Big Ten, Notre Dame, those types. And really, when you think about the SEC now, there's a lot of good, but not really, tough teams like Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Missouri, Arkansas, South Carolina. Texas A&M should be better, but they're not. Ole Miss, Mississippi State are kind of up and down. Florida has been bad the last couple of years. Auburn has been bad the last couple of years. Tennessee finally broke through last year. It really leaves you with Georgia, Alabama, and LSU as those top-tier teams. And then when you break that down a little farther, you'll see that Georgia, Alabama have only played twice. It's 2009. And then Georgia, LSU have only played twice since 2012. And you look at another tough opponent for Alabama. Alabama and Florida have only played twice since 2012. I mean, that means that the toughest opponents of the SEC are not playing each other. They're playing, against okay competition for the SEC, but then they get to play against weaker competition out of conference. And it's not hurting them. The committee just says, oh, it's SEC, toughest league there is. And then they try to get 2 or 3 of these teams in a playoff every single year. And I wonder, are they kind of this resting on the fact that at one point in, the 2000s, mid 2000s, they were, I would think they had 5 to 7 to 8 really good teams that can challenge anybody else in the country, but that's kind of dwindled down over the last couple of years. Are we overvaluing the SEC? Should the committee put as much value in the SEC games themselves at this point? So, sorry, Jordan, what do you think?
Just to go off that point you were talking about with the big Power 5 schools. So the Big Ten has 13 of the 14 teams playing 10 Power 5 opponents. The Big 12 has 11 of the 14. Pac-12 has 10 of their 12. The ACC has 10 of their 15. So, but I think
it's 2.
Yeah, as 2. I think there needs to be more of a look into it in the sense that, okay, now you're only playing 8 conference games. If those other 4 games aren't impactful, I think your ranking shouldn't really show that you're only playing 8 SEC teams. I don't think they need to look at it more and be like, we look at Ohio State, Michigan, they're playing better schools, but they're playing in their conference, not better schools, but all the time, like Rutgers, but so they're playing, they're playing better schools.
You needed to throw that out there, didn't you?
No, I didn't have to. It was important to. But I just see now you're playing 8 games against your own conference, and now you're going to play like Georgia. We see Georgia play cupcakes. I don't remember the last time Georgia played an FCS school or out of conference school that really put up a fight against them. So I think there needs to be more of a push by every conference to have more than 8. I think you should have majority of your schedule should be conference. First game of the year could be an FCS school, or end of the year easy, or even in the middle. Just I think you should only be able to play 1. I think it's.
I agree, and I mean for the FCS team, we should have shut them off completely because that money they get there really funds their program for that one game. So I don't want to turn those off either. I think one game should be it though. We should have consistent scheduling across the board. What do you say, Jess? I mean, are you in agreement with that, or what are your thoughts on SEC? Because I think we all just assume all SEC best league there is, but if you dive deeper into it, it doesn't seem that's the case based on their schedule. They just kind of rest on their reputation?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say because I agree with the point that, a lot of that middle section, once you get past the Alabama, LSU, Georgia, and, assuming Tennessee can maintain what they did last year, Tennessee, it's a lot of mid. Like South Carolina is a solid team. Kentucky, solid enough team. I think they're going to regress though. Mississippi State, solid. Ole Miss, solid. Arkansas, up and down. Like kind of what you would normally expect from a conference. You have the powerhouses, the mid, and then the bottom tier. But the difference I feel like is with the SEC is the same thing in the Big Ten. That top, the cream of the crop, the top teams are just so much better than like pretty much everyone else. Like Georgia shouldn't be starting their season off with games against Tennessee, Martin, and Ball State. And then they get UAB. They don't even have to go on the road for those games. They get Tennessee, Martin at home, Ball State at home, UAB at home. So it's not even like they have to go anywhere for those games, and that's three.
But hey, Georgia fans, we love you. We're not talking about your team or your schedule.
It's
we're just giving an example
as a whole, because Alabama has been doing a similar thing. Like they finally had to go on the road to play a Texas team, last year, and they almost lost. So it's like, how much better are they truly if every time they have to play a challenging team, and they have to go on the road for that out of conference. That being said, there's just no denying how much better Georgia is. Like I think we've gotten a little bit of a reputation as Georgia haters, but it's just they're just so much better than everybody else. It feels like right now. It's like maybe Alabama, if they can figure out their quarterback, can challenge them. But for the rest of the SEC, there's nothing special about the rest of the SEC. They have a bunch of solid to above average teams once you get past those top four. And
I always kind of thought that for a while there, when Alabama had their run, even Florida had their run before that, there's always been that one team steps up, wins a bunch of games, and it kind of props up the league. Just like when Florida State and Clemson won their national championships in ACC, it kind of propped up the league to look better than it actually was. But I guess that maybe that's the case for every league, because you go to Big Ten, you have your big three. Now you're gonna have maybe big four. I don't know, but
UCLA might all maybe big five at best. But then again, it's like what is so great about Minnesota, Wisconsin? We were saying earlier, maybe if Iowa can get the ball rolling on offense or just move the ball on offense, maybe then there will be a little bit more competition. But in every league, it feels like you have your top couple of teams, then you have those middle teams that are fighting for bowl games, and then you have the rest. I mean, I don't think any of us really are expecting Texas A&M to turn it around all that much. Maybe Auburn can bounce back, but I don't. Vanderbilt, Missouri, Florida for now. None of these teams are all that good. It's not like a blight against the SEC. It's just the reality. Every conference, they are the same as every other conference. It just so happens that their cream of the crop, their top teams are like phenomenal. I've been contending for national championships. Alabama, Georgia, 1 year of LSU, So it's
I guess my only criticism is just that the schedule, I feel like they don't have to challenge themselves because the reputation as SEC is so good that I can't believe you made it for 8 games in the SEC, where everybody else is doing 9 games. I just think everybody should be consistent. Like everybody should have the same amount of conference games. They should play very similar opponents. That's why I wish there was like a scheduling committee that would schedule these teams, but everybody manages their own schedule, which makes it a little different than the NFL or something like that. Yeah. So,
but if you look,
I 100% agree.
If you look at the past years, Florida lost to Georgia Southern, and that's why Georgia Southern moved up, because they were like, we can beat an SEC school. So I think everyone overvalues the SEC, like Jess says, because there's those 2 dominant forces, and it's not like, the thing is, it's not like Georgia barely beats these teams in the playoff. No, they blow out teams. They
slaughter.
put up numbers. Like, it's not like they're bad. It's just not. I'm not saying not fair, but like in a sense, it's not fair for the Big Ten that plays 10 games in this good Power 5 schools, and you got Georgia who plays 4 cupcakes that they could put their 6 strings in and put up numbers.
They'll put up 42,
Yeah.
Beat them 42-17 maybe with those 6-string guys. But like, if you are that good, if you are the defending champion, Alabama, be it Georgia, be it Ohio State, whatever, you should be going on the road. You should be proving it year after year. Maybe if you have a down year, those away games turn into home games. You win those, you're back. Like, there just needs to be a bit more of a balance. Like, again, this is not a shot at Georgia, individually, but the fact that the defending national champions, who not just beat, but slaughtered their opponent in said national championship game, are opening up, hosting Tennessee Martin, hosting Ball State, hosting South Carolina, and then hosting UAB before they finally have to go on the road to Auburn. That's not impressive.
I would say top 2 teams headed to the season, right, are Michigan and Georgia. And then you look at Michigan's schedule, just as bad, if not worse than that. I just think.
Hey, what are you talking about? Georgia's starting the year playing ECU. That's an L. Mark it down.
Okay, but no.
I'm sorry. Gotta rep my Pirates there. Couldn't let you just get away with that one.
They need to look into trying to figure out getting the NCAA to regulate more of the conferences and look at the NFL and how they do their scheduling. Like, yes, you have a set amount of teams you play in the NFL, but like a lot of the times you're going to play the number 1 team from the NFC West.
So if you finish first in your division, you get a first place schedule. You get a second place. Yeah, that's typically how the NFL does it. And then they kind of get some random team now that they have 17. So, but that's a whole nother discussion. So I think we're all in agreement here that it's not just the SEC should kind of move over and do more of what the Big Ten is doing. Have some harder, non-conference games. Can't just play cupcakes. If you want to play cupcake, play the cupcakes in the SEC. Instead of Georgia playing, sorry, I'm trying to bring up the East versus West here. Instead of Georgia playing, Mississippi State, maybe they get, Auburn. I don't know, however it would work, whatever is the lesser team in the SEC, maybe you alternate that. But you know what you guys get what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. All right. So more to come. We'll can't wait to hear all the SEC fan hate that we have received from this segment. So
not specifically targeting. It's just Georgia or anything.
Hey,
it's just
I'm just telling you, SEC schedule better.
Yes, SEC do better, please.
You can handle it. You have the athletes. You have the best recruiting classes. You can handle the games.
Well, that's your Texas A&M.
Well, that's a whole other story. So,